1, 0. Here we are.
We're there.
Woohoo! We're live.
Says we're there.
Okay. We are there. We should show up. We're just looking at the iPad, making sure everything's working.
Refresh.
Hello, everybody. No one's joined us yet, so we'll probably wait 2 minutes.
I suppose so.
You think? We'll wait 2 minutes and see who pops up.
Do we fill that with music or
Music, dance. Yep.
Heard any good jokes?
Heard any good jokes?
Right,
You got a dad joke?
Okay. 2 strings walk into a bar.
Okay.
And they
Yeah.
sit down at the bar, and the bartender says, "Get out of here, you two. We don't serve strings in here." So they're out there standing on the side of the sidewalk, and the one string looks at the other and says, "I got a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
He says, just do what I do. We're going to get a drink." And he gets himself all tangled up.
Right.
And then he starts pulling the little threads that at the top. It's like he's messing up his hair.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they walk back into the bar, and they sit down, and the bartender says, "Hey, I know you guys. I told you to get out of here." And he says, "What's the problem?" He says, "We don't serve strings in here."
We don't serve strings in here.
And he says, "But I'm not a string."
Uh-huh.
The bartender says, "Yeah, you're a string." The string says, "No, I'm afraid not." And this is why my children hate me.
I think I remember that joke from the 7th grade.
I'm surprised.
My own father probably told that joke. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
part of the code.
Part of the code.
It's in the book.
It is a nice setup, Brent.
The International Fraternity of Fathers. I'm surprised you remember it. Mine blocks out traumatic experiences.
No, my father only tells about 4 jokes. So they're embedded. They're
Wow.
embedded. Now I can't tell if there's. Oh no, there's 4 people watching, 5 people watching. Now I can see. Well, yes, here we are. Autism Ontario. The OAC Central has moved. We are now in a downtown secret location, not to be disclosed.
Karen Boydie is now live.
Karen Boydie is now live.
And there it is.
Hi, those of you who are here. We're just going to kill about 2 minutes before we get started. We see that we have 6 people watching, and so we apologize for the delay. Hope everybody's having a lovely evening.
And it isn't going to show it to me without flash on my iPad, and that's not too likely to work. Let's see about that.
My husband is here. He could do a dance for us. No.
Technical wizardry.
But we are going to extend the thanks. Tony Castro is a great Canadian for
Yes.
setting this up for us.
So I hope that you can hear us a little better and see us a little better. We are not using a cell phone hanging from a coat hanger this time. We're in a downtown office, and we can also read your comments. Hi, Saman. We can also read your comments, so we should be able to be more interactive this time than we were last time. And we've got a lot of questions that we're going to go through. We've waited a couple of minutes. Should we just go for it? And whoever joins us, joins us. We've got 15 people now. That's quite a lot of people. Hello. Hi, Anna. Hi.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard. Okay.
Text me if you need her.
Ready?
Fire one ready.
Fire one ready? Okay.
I was born ready.
He
Go.
was born ready. All right.
Yep.
Can everyone hear us all right? Can someone give us an amen? Can you hear all right? Can you see all right?
Survey says.
Survey says. I'm sure there's a little bit of a delay. These things are slow.
Yeah.
A little bit of a delay.
It's that 7-second in case
Yeah,
I swear
there we
by
go.
accident.
Amen. Yes.
Thank you,
okay.
Monica.
Thank you, sister. Okay. Hi. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our live chat. My name is Karen Boydie, and I am a newer member of the Ontario Autism Coalition's board. And this is
Bruce McIntosh.
Bruce McIntosh. Who are you, Bruce?
A dad.
A dad.
Oh, they call me president.
They call him president. We call him the
I
pres.
filled in that line on the incorporation form. That's really the reason why.
That's the reason why. So I'm going to read a little bit here about what our plan is so everyone knows what it is, and what we're up to and what we have up our sleeves. So feel free to share this live broadcast with friends in any Facebook groups that you belong to. We'd appreciate that very much. We want as many people as possible to access this information who want to have it. I'm going to get Bruce to tell you a little bit about the OAC, Ontario Autism Coalition, that's us, and what he does as the president. We'll review very quickly how the new OAP, Ontario Autism Program, seems to be unfolding, and ask Bruce to give us his impressions of how he thinks things will unfold. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, so no holds barred. Any question that you have, submit it, please. First, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the pre-submitted questions that people have sent to me, and we'll try to read the feed as well, so that we can answer questions as they come along. But first, what we'll deal with is the questions that we've received. We plan to do more live chats like this. The next one will be with Laura Kirby-McIntosh, and that's when we'll be talking about supports for our kids in schools and what the OAC hopes to achieve in terms of our work with or for the education system, trying to help them step up their game. Okay? And we hope to do some more live chats as well with other experts, and we'll let you know about those as time goes on. Okay, so, Bruce, who are the OAC?
Parents.
Parents.
Primarily parents. There are a few members, actually many members now, who are themselves on the spectrum. We've got a youth group that's about, the last I checked, it was over 100 young people 25 or under who are on the spectrum. We also have a lot of service providers, speech paths and behavior analysts and psychologists who recognize that we're doing some good work, and they've joined as well. That's a wonderful thing to have. So yeah, and we're just people who are pursuing better services for people with autism.
So, why do you care so much about this stuff, Bruce?
I have a 17-year-old son and a 15-year-old son who are both on the spectrum, diagnosed when they were young. My older boy was 3, and in 14 years, we'd seen not a great deal of change. We fought to strike an age cutoff down 12 years ago, and the government last year tried to bring it back. And when I met with parents at that initial press conference last April, I was hearing exactly the same sorts of things that we'd heard 10 years before. And that's kind of daunting. While we did get that original age cutoff struck down, we hadn't made a heck of a lot more progress than that. And it's not a good feeling. But we got together a lot faster this time, and we were effective a lot faster this time, and we're making way more progress. We're getting some of the things that we've been asking for out of government for all of those 12 years.
All of those 12 years.
I'm pretty happy about our successes.
It's pretty
so
exciting.
far.
And for those of you who are completely new, perhaps some of you watching or who may come across this broadcast have recently received a diagnosis for your child. The Ontario Autism Coalition is an activist group that try to affect political change so that our children and people who have autism can have more services in the province of Ontario. We have a website that has our history, the story of our history on there, and it's a very good read. It'll give you a good sense of the kind of work that Bruce has been doing for the last 12 years with his colleagues here at the OAC. So what the heck is happening now? Big things are happening. Why are we so excited about this? Why are we declaring a victory of sorts right now?
Well, we've already had several important announcements from the government. They have announced that the new system is going to be based on direct funding as a way to pay for the services, the ABA services that our kids are going to get. The minister has made it clear that the new program is going to serve young people up to the age of 18, and we're in the process of finding a way to integrate the services at MCYS, the Children and Youth Services Ministry, with that of education, because MCYS officially stops being responsible at age 18, but the Ontario Special Needs Strategy says 21. So we've got to kind of get education on board, and Laura's sort of our point person on education issues, so stand by for that, because we are making some progress there.
So are we resting on our laurels, Bruce?
Oh, hell no.
Hell no.
We're on a roll. Autism doesn't end at 5 worked and continues to work. Autism doesn't end at school, is in the midst of activity, and we've started only just recently on adult services. So autism doesn't end at 18 is the hashtag for that one. We're not taking our foot off the gas. This has got to get right, and it's got to get right soon, and the government is finally listening to us, and we're gonna make this work.
So there's a lot more to the OAC than just this new program that we'll be discussing today.
Oh yes,
a lot more. And we hope to do more live chats if folks out there find that helpful, so that you can meet other people who are part of the OAC, who are working on other campaigns and trying to figure out how, as an organization, we're going to adapt to everything that's going on.
There are going to be changes,
Yeah.
and not all of them are going to be simple or easy. Not all of them are going to come as quickly as people might like, but they are coming. And the next year, possibly a little less than a year, we might have full rollout of the new program, and I'm very happy about that.
So with all these changes that are happening, Bruce, what has been your role with the implementation committee, and how's it going? How's it going over there?
I work with a bunch of very smart people. I can't think of a better group that I have ever had the pleasure to work with. They come from a range of backgrounds. There are other parent groups and individuals. There is a medical doctor, 2 medical doctors. There are speech paths. There are BCBAs. There are representatives from the Psychological Association, and all of the professions that work with our kids have come together to build this program. We are meeting with increasing frequency. Between now and the end of August, there are 5 full-day meetings planned. That's the whole committee. That doesn't count the sort of subgroups or subcommittees that are working on particular issues that are of interest to only some of the committee members. But we've now been tasked, on top of the work that we had to do before, with getting a DFO system together, and our work on that has to be done by the end of August, because after that the minister has to do a bunch of things to actually get it to roll out by the end of the year. So we're busy people. We're under a great deal of pressure. We're trying to get it right, and having a short time frame doesn't really lend itself to that, but we're doing our best, and it's coming.
Can you give me an example of some of the debates that go on behind closed doors in the committee?
Who should be supervising ABA programs? That's been a big one. That's been a debate in the parent community, and it's been up for discussion amongst us. There's going to be more to come on that. A final decision hasn't been made. The OAC recommendation has been that it should be a regulated health professional, ideally a psychologist. But that may change, because one of the other good things that we've been asking for 12 years, the minister has gotten the ball rolling with the Ministry of Health to get board-certified behavior analysts regulated in Ontario. And that's a big change, but that's going to take some time. Could be as much as 3 years.
Do you have any doubts or concerns about how the process is going, or any worries?
I think one of my biggest worries is whether we've got the capacity in terms of professionals to meet the needs of the number of kids that are out there
Right.
needing services.
So there aren't enough people trained and ready to go?
Well, there might be.
There might be.
This is a huge question mark. There are those that say that there are those that say that there aren't, and they both speak with equal certainty. But the truth of the matter is that when we actually are dealing with a program that is data-driven, to not have that kind of data is a real problem in terms of service planning. So we're working toward getting that information, but even so, we live in a system where there hasn't been adequate incentive since the beginning of the program, for practitioners to come here, for students and practitioners who live here to spend their time working on services for kids with autism, because the rates for those services have been artificially suppressed. So it's very hard to actually make a decent buck if you're working with kids on those direct funded spaces. The regional programs have limited the number of spaces available for DFO contracts because they don't want other people eating their lunch. You're not going to build capacity if the people that you would like to attract and the people you would like to get the certifications who've started out here can't find work when they arrive. So this is one of the exciting things about the new DFO process, is that it is going to, and this will take some time, but it's going to attract people to Ontario to work with our children and young adults. That's not been the case.
I'm going to stop you.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come. That's our hope,
that's
right?
the message.
Yeah, and this is a complicated business. We know that the people who will be watching this, you are a really varied crowd. So we've got people who are just plugging into the OAC, who've just gotten a diagnosis for their child, trying to figure out, what do I do? Somebody help me. Somebody must know what to do. We've got these folks, right? Then we've got folks who never received any services or help for their children, and their children are older, they're teenagers or they're older children, and they've been waiting for a big change to happen, and a big change is happening, and they're trying to figure out how we're going to slot their kids into the system, right? And then we've got all of these people who are on the waiting list, right? So we're talking to a lot of different people tonight, and we have a lot of questions. I'm going to start with very basic, simple questions, and then we'll get into the finer points of things. And as you can see, like I mentioned before, Bruce can go on, but he can go on. You can go on because
and Karen
he knows
can kick me when I should shut up.
He knows a lot. And the truth is, as I sit here, I'm confused, and I've been trying to figure this out for myself and my own child. So if you're watching this and you're going, whoa, this is too much. It is too much. But slowly, things fall into place and you start to understand. And once you've got support set up for your child, lots of people will help you, right? That's what happens. We learn through osmosis.
We've
right?
got a wonderful online community on Facebook.
Yes.
3,200 members.
Yeah.
It's growing every day. There are new people joining, and they're a very helpful bunch.
Yes.
Some of them are professionals. Some of them are simply other parents. And there is a lot of experience and a lot of really good advice, and it's a great place place to ask a question if you're having challenges.
Yeah. So don't worry. We will try our very best. And so I'm going to go on to the questions that people have sent me. And I've noticed a few. A woman was asking about, will the OAC deal with issues like housing? That's all. We want we want everything under the umbrella of the Ontario Autism Coalition. Much depends on how we grow. Much depends on how many members we can generate and whether or not we can fundraise enough to do the campaigns that we want to do. That's just the fact of life for any NGO, non-governmental organization, which is what we are. But we're all volunteers and we're all parents, okay? So,
may I interrupt for
yes,
just a moment?
please.
Because you talked about membership, and
Yeah.
I want to do this very quickly. We've got lots and lots of people on Facebook, but Facebook isn't very good for figuring out where people are, how old their children are, what their concerns may be in a systematic fashion. One of the things that we may need to do this fall, when it's back to school time, is address on a local level the boards of education across the province. There are 72 of them. And we need to know where our people are in order to organize that process, and a number of other things that we're going to need to do in the future. So instead of just joining our Facebook group, could you please go over to www.ontarioautismcoalition.com. There's Become a Member up on the menu bar at the top. Click on that and complete the form, please. It'll help us know more about our membership, where we're strong, what the concerns are, and then we won't have to tell you if you live in Waterloo about a protest that's going on in Peterborough or what have you.
Yeah.
So please do it for yourself. Please ask your friends to do it and help that process along.
And if you want to give us a couple of bucks,
It wouldn't suck.
hey, we wouldn't mind. Okay, questions?
Go.
Go. Okay, from Alana Land. Hello, Alana. Okay, my question is, does everyone get the same amount of funding? Does income affect the amount you get?
No and no. So the amount of funding that you're going to get is going to be contingent on the clinical decision that establishes the number of hours for your kid.
And that's that person, we're not sure who it's going to be, right? A psychologist, a BCBA, well, we don't know.
Well, we sort
Or
of,
you know.
I can tell you in general terms, if you want to use the direct service option, and that's going to one of the regional agencies that have been running the program to this point, then you're going to get one of their clinical psychologists taking over your child's case. If you instead choose the direct funded option, the provider that you go out to in the private sector is going to be the clinician in charge. So whichever route you go, there's going to be somebody overseeing your child's program. They make the call, and that's going to determine how much funding you get. But it's not affected by income. Okay? This is one of the best changes that's been made in the last few months. All your child needs to get access to the program is to live in Ontario, be 18 or younger, and have a diagnosis of autism. That's it.
If you're a landed immigrant, can you apply for this program?
Yes.
Okay. Kelly Simpson, Chimek?
I've never known
Hi, Kelly.
how to pronounce that.
I'm not
I
sure
think
either.
it's CMAC, but
CMAC.
I'm not
Let's go with
certain.
CMAC. It doesn't look like an Italian name to me. Okay, shush, Karen. Is there a maximum number of hours that can be approved? I know it is individualized, but I want to know if there is a ceiling number of hours.
Well, officially, no. Practically, well, you've only got, 170 something hours in a week, so 160 something.
Yes.
168. There we are. I actually caught up.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, I mean,
Yeah.
intensity is considered to be 25 to 40 hours. And for most young people, that is more than a full-time job. So, we've got to remember that kids need to be kids too.
Yeah. There was a time when it was 40 hours a week, isn't that right?
Yeah.
And I know my child gets 20 hours a week and 2.5 hours on top of that for prep time for the staff. So
Yeah.
he's there. He's at his center working 20 hours a week, and he's in a full-time program. Yeah. Okay.
There's no upper limit, but what we are trying to get away from is in the past, you either got this or that. You either got the high number of hours, or you got hardly anything that lasted for a handful of weeks, and then you would wait for another block, and that could take a year and a half or more. That's what we're trying to get away from.
So my son is in a full-time program, but he was also doing the ABA stuff. So when he was 4, he did 10 weeks, 2 hours a day, 2 hours 1 day a week. When he was 4, he's 7 now. We're still on the waiting list for the next one.
Yeah. So #fail. Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone has known that low level of service simply doesn't. It's subclinical. Not even the psychologists approve of this. It was an attempt to, frankly, throw families a bone. It was sort of like the original $8,000 promise for the kids that got kicked out a year ago. It's not realistic. It doesn't work, and there's substantial evidence. I mean, no surprise, it's in the literature, but there's substantial evidence to show from practical experience when the block ends, the kids regress. It's a waste of time and money.
Kelly has another good question. Kelly, you posted some great ones, so I'm going to read another one of your questions. When/how will providers reach out to families to let us know our number on the current waiting list if we are close to the top and need to discuss entry in new program?
Right. So that's going to vary depending on where you live. Our family, and I was actually shocked to get it, we actually got a letter from Kinark telling us where Cliff was on the ABA wait list. I'd forgotten that he was on the ABA wait list.
That's how long you waited.
So Charlie's story, well,
Mirrors. Similar, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
7 or 17, it's the same problem. That's gonna come. You deserve to know it, but you also need to keep in mind that your numeric spot in line isn't a very good indication of exactly how much time that's going to take. Because if there are 50 kids ahead of your child, and they are getting an average number of hours that's down in the teens, well, it's going to move a little bit quicker, right?
It just depends on how many children are winding down and are going to be released. So they could be opening up a big chunk of kids or not.
If
they're
those
doing
children
their
achieve
job
their
and making
goals, right?
good clinical decisions, if the providers are doing a good job and making good clinical decisions, then maybe it'll be slower than you would like. I always felt, before I actually understood how corrupt things were, that I would wait my turn because I wanted the children ahead of me to get what they needed. Let's hope that will be the case now. We'll see. Roseanne.
Corrupt, eh?
Well, yes.
Please
I
make
would
a
say
donation.
corrupt.
We're going to
I
need
would say that was
lawyers.
corrupt. Okay.
We'll get to a little more of that in a few minutes.
That's my personal opinion. I only speak for myself. Okay, Rosanna Falcon.
Logo. Where's that? Logo. Okay.
Ramirez. Okay. Is there any way the regional providers... Okay, hold the phone. Regional providers. What is a regional provider?
A regional provider or regional program, and sometimes known as regional lead agencies, are a group of 11 NGOs that the government contracted with. They're across the province, and the government contracted with them at the very beginning of this program back in 99-2000. They administer both the IBI and the ABA programs province-wide. They approve everything. Up until this point, they've been making the clinical decisions. but they're NGOs. So in Ottawa,
NGO is non-governmental organization.
Sorry, my
So
shorthanded.
some people think will distinguish. They'll say a DSO and a DFO. A DSO is a government organization, and a DFO is a private organization. DSOs are not government organizations. They are NGOs, which is, you sort of think an NGO is World Wildlife Fund, Greenpeace, the Canadian Cancer Society. They do good work, and they fundraise, and they get grants, and they're not government organizations. They may get money from the government, but they're not government organizations. Okay, back to the question.
Great explanation.
Is there any way the regional providers can provide more accurate info about wait times as DFO becomes available so that the families and the private service providers can better plan their resources? By having a 3-month notice, for example, there would be more time to select a preferred provider and give them time to hire and train if necessary. Otherwise, we will end up on another wait list with private providers after already waiting, or else having to settle for a non-preferred provider, i.e. in terms of quality, location, or schedule. It's a very good question.
It's an awesome question, and really I take it more as a suggestion than anything else. Of course there's a way to do it, because we know what the wait list is, and we know overall how quickly it's moving, or not, but it's going to be moving quicker and quicker as time passes. But that 3-month notice is an absolutely top-notch suggestion, and when it comes time in the DFO meetings, I'm taking that one forward because I think it's brilliant. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you a lot.
Yeah. Lisa, Lanive Pino. I read the clinical framework, I got a frog in my throat, pardon me, on the Ontario Autism website. My concern is that those doing the assessments are going to base the hours your child gets on research that was done in the past. The research tends to say that children over 4 or 5 will not benefit from intensive ABA due to their developmental stage. So basically, I feel that children over 4 or 5 will get very few hours of therapy.
It's a legitimate concern, but we have, as a principle for the OAP, it's about clinical decision making. Now, yes, there are a couple of places in the literature, and this is the bless you.
I'm sorry.
This is the fight that we had with the government last year.
Mm-hmm.
There is a researcher by the name of Tristram Smith who did one study that found out that ABA can, in circumstances, be less effective for children over 5. Less effective doesn't mean ineffective. And that was the autism doesn't end at 5 argument. Like, you can't say that it doesn't work if you know that it doesn't quite work as well, and if children are waiting over 5, well, that's the government's own bloody fault for not having funded the program properly. So they've got some explaining to do. That was our fight. It's been recognized that now that is no longer a factor. And if the clinician's decision, regardless of the age of the child, is a certain number of hours using their best judgment and all those years of schooling, that's what the kid's going to get. So I understand the concern. We've been through it before, but the minister has been real clear about this. That's not it. Clinical decision.
It is a great question, Lisa, by the way, and this is what the big fight was about a year ago. One of the things that the government argued was they would cite a particular report that they had commissioned. And they would do this over and over again and send out the message that, well, this IBI program is only good for children under the age of 5, and don't you worry, we got you covered, we got your backs. We're going to put the older children into a program that suits them more. The problem is also, and please correct me if I've got this wrong, because the report is really freaking long, is that what the report said is that they did not study children over the age of 5, right? That particular report, or maybe I'm going on a red herring here, but
one sentence that mentioned the lead researcher's name and that somewhat specious interpretation of the finding, they didn't even footnote it.
Yeah.
Like Monique Taylor asked the Minister McCharles in the House, where does it say that it doesn't work?
Yeah.
It didn't say that it doesn't work.
And the report is long and it's full of all kinds of observations and all kinds of findings, and that's what they used to try to cut the funding.
Yeah. Applied behavior analysis works with people at all ages.
Yeah.
It's used for people with acquired brain injury. It's used to deal with the consequences of fetal alcohol syndrome. It's used in a whole bunch of settings.
And that was just a political trick.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So what politicians really love to do is they like to co-opt experts, they get their opinions, they get their reports, and then all of those experts had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So when the government came out and said, hey, this stuff isn't good for kids over 5, we'd ask the experts, they all agree. The experts couldn't say anything.
Well, although when it got as bad as it got, there was one fellow who actually stepped up to the plate. And he got in trouble for it, but so be it. He did the responsible thing. But Dr. Ian Daw, who is a psychologist, and he chaired the committee that put out that report, tweeted out, after considerable attention was put on him, that, and I quote, "what they're doing is not what we recommended," end quote. And at that point, the cat was among the pigeons.
Yeah.
And in August, Andrea Gordon at the Toronto Star had managed to, under a Freedom of Information request, she found correspondence from the committee warning the government that if they proceeded on this path, that they risked doing harm to children on the spectrum. And when that broke, we had them.
So there's never a simple. There's never a
spin.
I'm sorry, Bruce. There's nothing but spin. So there's never a simple answer to any question, Lisa. It's a great one. I think a lot of us don't believe that it is true that ABA is more effective for younger children. So, but I'm no scientist. So I'm just a mom, and I could go on. Jennifer Lalonde. She says, what are the first steps a parent of a very newly diagnosed child takes in light of the changes? Like today's move to get services is what? So what do you do?
You get onto the ministry website and you look for the 800 number to dial, and forgive me, I haven't memorized yet.
Could somebody post the 1-800 number, please?
children.gov.on.ca/autism. It's there. And dial it, because that's going to get you in touch with the agency in your region to get services for your kid.
Let's move on. Okay, we're getting into some deeper questions now. Brent Howe, thank you, Brent. I see that the providers still will be doing the assessments. What are the changes they will use? No, what are the changes they will use their what are the chances they will use their assessments to try and reduce hours? What method of control do we have to ensure that the CIC has the final say over a regional's decision? Quickly, what's a CIC?
Clinician in charge.
Clinician in charge. So the doctor, the psychologist in charge, right?
The person at the top of the program.
With all the letters beside his name or her name. Okay, so what method of control do we have to ensure that the CIC has the final say over a regional's decision, regional provider?
It's written into the program guidelines. It's written into our committee's statement of principles, and it's incorporated in the clinical expert committee report. It's there. Clinicians make the decisions for the children and young people under their care. Period. Full stop. End of story.
Good. Kelly again. We can defer entry and wait for direct funding option and continue the 810K. Will we be expected to provide anything while we wait? Start preparing for the new program. Okay, so I didn't read this well, did I? First of all, what is the 810K, Bruce?
That is the funding for the children who were kicked off the waiting list last year because of the H5 dispute.
Right, so she says, can we defer entry and wait for a direct funding option and continue the 810?
Well, yes, the 810K is going to stay in place for you until the new DFO model is in place, and possibly a wee bit longer. The minister's deadline is the end of the year to have that happen. For a variety of reasons, not the least of which being the kids in the ABA level have never had access to direct funding. It would be nice to get it sooner, but that's going to be a real challenge to do. But when that new DFO model is in place, that's when you'll move over. But there's a principle that the minister has stated repeatedly: seamless transition to the new program. So just because you were on the installments and move into the OAP, all it really means is you're getting your funding out of a different pot of money, but your child's care still needs to be done by your clinician in charge, making the decisions for your kid. And just because you move from one pot of money to another should not affect your kid's hours.
Okay, I see a good question on the screen. Anna, she says, I'm confused and very new to this. Is IBI still staying in place, or will IBI and ABA be one thing? My son is on both lists right now at Erin Oaks. Told me IBI is what he needs most.
Okay. The vocabulary has been a pain in certain places
The neck.
for a long time.
Pain in the neck.
IBI is ABA. IBI is the name of a government program in which a behavior analyst does ABA work with a child on the autism spectrum, and it is paid for by the Ontario government. That's the difference. Oh, and for 20 or more hours a week. And that's the only difference. They're both ABA. That's the science of applied behavior analysis. Now, the problem is that the two programs were designed in different ways. So as I said, 20 or more hours a week in the intensive behavioral intervention. The ABA program offered a very small number of hours a week, as little as 2 hours a day.
1 day a week.
For
10 weeks.
Yeah, 1 day a week, 10
20
weeks.
hours
Like
for
it's
over 10 weeks.
literally,
Yeah.
tiny.
The last half an hour of my kids, they watched a movie. Okay.
My blood pressure.
Your blood pressure? It's all right.
So,
Take a deep breath.
yeah,
Get
breathe
into the
in,
green zone.
wax on, wax off. Don't forget to breathe, very important. For a kid who needed something in between the two, that just simply wasn't available. It was mathematically impossible for that to happen, even with the original set of changes that were proposed. We've arrived at a place where that's no longer the case, and your clinician makes the call. So, yes, they're being combined. It's still going to be applied behavior analysis, but delivered out of one program where the clinician makes the call about the level of intensity.
Okay, does that help, Anna? I hope it does. Keep posting. If you're new, post your questions on Facebook. There will be other parents who will be more than happy to help you, especially those who are a little farther down the line. Keep in mind, though, that if you are posting a question on Facebook, you're not necessarily going to be getting an official response from the OAC. Sometimes Bruce checks the page, sometimes Laura, sometimes members of the executive, they do, and so you'll be reaching them. But the Facebook page is just a public forum. It is not where we post our official positions. All of that goes on the website. So think of the Facebook as what it is. It's just a community bulletin board. So there are vigorous debates. Sometimes there's even some fights here and there, and it's all good. It's all part of the process. We live in a democracy, and people can express their thoughts and feelings. Be careful, though, that when you're reading posts, they are not necessarily the position of the OAC. This is it's just an open forum for people, okay? Question from Rebecca. Yes?
Go.
Yes, okay. Rebecca Haight, and this is another good one. What wait list are they using to filter the kids into the new program? ABA? How will they amalgamate all of the lists to one central list? Did I miss the answers to that already?
They haven't been easy to find, but I'm going to try and do it now. It's on the ministry's website, and I think they've done actually a very good job in what they've put up there. For children that are in service, it's going to work a little bit differently. They're going to stay in service, and if they are old school, $39 an hour direct funded, or if they are installment direct funded, it's going to take until the new direct funding model is in place for them to move over to the new program. And that's going to be end of the year, when your last 10K installment runs out, etc. For the children that are in direct service under the old program, they're going to cut over just about any time, because there's nothing to do other than some of the additional paperwork that the new program is going to require. That means we've tried to take a more family-centered approach to what kids need and what their families need. So the intake process is going to involve creation of a family service plan, and that's going to take a look at respite services and interfacing with other services that the kid may need, like speech and language or occupational therapy, depending what their needs are. I've heard the minister say this so many times, and it's what we've always kicked about. Children need to have their needs met. So the family service plan, and there will be family support workers who work in conjunction with that. Oh, yay.
Somebody doesn't know we're on air.
They're going to try and help families to integrate and access those other services.
Yeah.
For the people that are on the waiting list, however, it's different. The ABA wait list is the larger wait list, and most of the kids that are on the IBI list are also on the ABA list. If you're on both, when they're combined, the kid is going to get the most advantageous date. That's the word that's being used. So if you got onto the IBI list sooner than you got onto the ABA list, then that's the date that's going to get you.
Okay, so you're in the waiting list for 2 programs.
Yeah.
Okay, you're on the waiting list for 2 programs. So you're saying the kid will get into the OAP based on the date that's coming soonest, and they're getting into the OP. So that's not that they're waiting for ABA and IBI, and ABA comes up, and then they go into ABA. It's that they're on the waiting list for ABA and IBI. Whichever date comes up first, boom, you're in the OAP.
OAP.
Okay?
You're hopefully in both.
I hope something about. Okay, so all right, this is not exactly a question, but it's a scenario that we want to share. And thank you, Eugenia Cabas, for sharing it. It's a little bit long. I'll try not to screw up reading it to you all. Okay. To all of you parents that are wondering how the new OAP will unfold, read below. I got a phone call from Kinark informing me that we can get a DSO spot but continue to wait for DFO. DSO direct service option, DFO direct funding option. Okay. In addition, while our spot for DSO is up now, our DFO spot is 349. Needless to say, when I heard number 349, I nearly fainted. I'm waiting for a DFO spot, and we are currently working with the private service provider over a year. So she's already been paying out of pocket with a private service provider for a year, and she wants to go to that one, right? This provider is one of the providers approved by Kinark. There goes my frog. I was watching all of the announcements where it was made clear that we parents have a choice between DFO and DSO. And I understand that doing what Kinark did is a direct violation of ministry guidelines. I contacted the ministry representative via email, and I'm waiting for direct confirmation from him. Go ahead. Excuse me. I'm going to just excuse myself.
Oh my. She'll be okay. Fingers tightly crossed. Okay. They will try to roll you.
I'm fine. Just a frog in my throat. I'm not choking on a chicken wing or anything.
Thank heavens.
Yeah.
I can't.
Sorry, everybody.
I can't do this without you.
No, I know. I'll never leave you, Bruce. Okay.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry.
Where were you when I needed a date? Tony.
Oh God.
Let's not
All right.
do this. So they try and roll you, and you're supposed to have that choice, and they better bloody give it to you. This isn't acceptable, and it's been something that we have been pounding on for 10 years. Going back as far as Marianne Chambers in 2006, more than 10 years. They tell you that there's a fixed number of spots for either funding model, and then they tell you that, well, of course, their direct service spot is coming up first. No way. You've got the right of the choice. It's in the program guidelines, and you tell them that, and you get in touch with your ministry's regional office. I hope that's, when you say you've been in touch with the ministry, I hope that's where you're going, because they're the people who are around to resolve these kinds of issues. Mm-hmm. But if you are at the top of the list, you are to be given a choice. And too bad if it has consequences for the regional provider. You are supposed to be given a choice. And the reason for that is situations like yours. You should not have to take apart a perfectly good working program just to get government funding. It makes no sense whatsoever. Don't accept it.
Mm-hmm. You know, it just popped into my head, but is there a way that a person like this could request a reimbursement? Has that ever been discussed?
There's no way to do that.
There's no way to do that.
No.
I mean, it just popped into my little old head. You know, it makes sense to me. Yeah.
There would be a massive.
Can you imagine?
Our family would be sending the government a bill for.
How much?
Well, we'd be into six figures.
6 figures.
For the
6
4
figures
years we were paying
that you
for
paid
it.
for it. Yeah. Yeah. How many times did you mortgage your house again?
Twice.
Twice for therapy for your child when he.
And I know people who have refinanced more often than that, and I know people who have sold outright, and it's our kids. We know what works, and we will do whatever our kids need.
Whatever we have to do.
That's it.
Yeah, thank you, Eugenia. And this is not okay with the OAC.
Keep us up to date on that.
Yeah.
I would be personally very interested.
Yes.
I heard a similar situation on the minister's teletown hall on Tuesday evening, and if this is happening, it shouldn't be happening. I'd kind of
And
like
this
to know.
is just the kind of story that we would love for you to share with us. If you become a member of the OAC on our website and share this information, it's all private. The person who's managing our database and managing our website is a professional. It's all coded, it's all protected. And you don't have to give us money, of course. You know, I mean, I put in a pitch. We won't say no if you do. But what we really need is information. We really need you to contact us. And if you have a really, really serious issue, don't deal with it alone. Facebook is fine. You can post on Facebook. You can ask friends for help. You can ask the community to give you suggestions. But we need to know who you are. We need to know what you're going through. And if you're up in North Bay, if you're up in Thunder Bay, if you're in Parry Sound, tell us your story. Share with us. Let us know what's going on. Okay? All right. So this is another long question from Marianne Ritchie, but it's an important one. I'm still working my way to reading and understanding the new OAP, but my main concern is that we get financial relief for our daughter's ABA therapy. From my understanding, it doesn't matter that a child has multiple diagnoses, as long as autism is one of them. They are guaranteed a program that is not the ABA program, which isn't helpful for our child who is already more delayed because of Down syndrome, hearing impairment, and autism. My concern is that despite being diagnosed 5 years ago, my daughter still had to go back to the ABA waitlist, which she received 2 times in 5 years that she's been diagnosed. Shouldn't there be a change in the wait list so that the diagnosis date is taken into consideration? There's part 2, but we're sorry, by the way, Marianne.
Wow. This is a good news, bad news kind of thing. And I don't have, for the first part of it, the good news. Accessing services requires, as I said, a diagnosis of autism. You got to live in the province. You got to be 18 or under. But that's it. We've had games played in the past about, we're targeting more severe kids or less severe kids. I hate the word severity. It bothers me. I have a sister-in-law who says just because you experience my autism mildly doesn't mean I do. But
we talked about this last time.
Yeah, we did. Okay.
Yeah, not to.
I can
not
be
to
a
say
little
that.
repetitive. Maybe it's a perseverance thing.
And it's okay. We repeated ourselves on a few things, and that's all right because there are new people watching all the time, and the thing that I said is that I always feel like it has to do with other people's comfort.
Yeah.
So if people have an easier time communicating verbally with someone, they're high functioning, and people seem to be confused and don't really know what to do with a child or a person who can't respond verbally, and so they are lower functioning. I think it has to do with other people's perception, not the person with autism.
Well, a good way I've heard it said is our former clinical director, James Porter, who he's described it as a rehab exercise. How much do the challenges interfere with living your life? And if you look at it that way, it's an awful lot more practical.
Yeah.
So here's the drift. The good part is those other things are wiped away. So your daughter's Downs, hearing impairment, don't have an effect on getting access to this program. But the ABA list is problematic because it's been rolling over for years now. Not moving fast enough, but a kid coming in is coming in somewhere in the middle, region by region. The deck has been shuffled so many times that there's no longer a universally fair way to do this. So sadly, at some point, it's simply going to be a matter of what's the list look like right now today, and that's the list that's going to go into the future for the new program. And then we work as hard as possible to clear that list as fast as possible. It's not a good answer for everybody.
Yeah. Marianne has a second part to her question. This is actually the last question, and it's already 10 o'clock. We can answer some questions live if people would like, but there's one issue that we definitely need to discuss, and that's cans.
Yes.
And this is part of Marianne's question as well. Happy Christmas, says Bruce. Happy Hanukkah. Also, Sharon Gabison mentioned cans. Thank you for bringing that up, Sharon. I'm still confused. I haven't read it. But I'm fearing this is a possible loophole by the government to deny children who are far more delayed the necessary therapy that they need. I am tired of begging for some funding here and there from organizations that have lottery systems and grants for as little as $250 for camps, etc. So, cans. What is this cans thing?
Oh, it's a problem.
Okay, it's a problem.
Okay. The CANS, CANS, stands for the Child and Adolescent Needs and Strengths Assessment. And it's supposed to be a standardized form to collect information about a child entering a program, in this case the autism program, to consistently, objectively assess, well, their needs and strengths. The trouble with it is that, oh my God, how do I start this list? There are several significant problems with what was the proposal a week ago that we successfully shot down in committee.
Right. So, okay, please. I don't have a good question for you that because
I'll try and recap it quickly.
I'm very confused personally.
The CANS is supposed to be administered by a psychologist. The proposal that the government brought to our committee was that it be administered by, and this is reflected in the clinical expert report, that it be delivered by one of those family service workers, people who don't necessarily have any behavioral background or psychology training whatsoever.
So it's that person on the phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
An admin person?
Right. And that's not okay. But the really troubling part of it is that, and you can find this, I'm not making any of this up, you can look at the CANS website, but it bills itself as a tool to use the data that it collects to define service levels. And that would mean hours or intensity, or however you like to say that word. There is absolutely no universe, including the one where Spock has a beard, where using the output of some computer algorithm should trump the decision of a psychologist with 10 years of schooling to their benefit. Just absolutely no way. Our children are individual, they are unique, and they must be dealt with that way, not pumping them into a system that is going to try and separate them into categories. It's exactly what we've been working to correct with the creation of this new system. So, the guidelines that came out on Monday no longer include the ministry's recommendation that this be required. Of course, it's still referred to in the clinical expert report, but it only recognizes it as an option or an example of how this information might be collected. But we'd like it out of there completely. It's just not the right approach to this program, just not.
So the implementation committee, is this still up for discussion before the?
There's going to be another.
What can you do? What are you going to do, Bruce? What are you going to do about this?
Well, at committee, on the implementation side, we've done just about as much as we can. Mm-hmm. The government is going to, I think, try again to persuade us that it's optional, and they, I don't know this to be true. I suspect that the strategy will be to somehow put some sort of limits on the manner in which the data can be used. I just don't want to see it in there at all, because limits, well, if you're me, limits are made to be broken. And if it's there, somebody's going to misuse it. And that's not okay. Oh, and by the way, the server where the data that's taken in is, where it's stored, it's in the United States. I'm not sure that families are actually giving truly informed consent if they agree to answer those questions. It's just, there's so many things that are wrong with it. So we're going to have another talk about it, but the OAC position isn't going to change. It's got to go. Mm-hmm. So the next bit is to persuade the clinical expert committee that they need to remove reference to it from their report. They need to amend the report. And so that's going to be the focus of a campaign.
Can the cans.
Can the cans. And that's going to involve the usual stuff. We're actually getting an infographic together, and we're having it lawyered because, look, I got to be honest with you. One of the troubling things about this is that the cans is based on work that was done in the doctoral dissertation of a psychologist who is married to one of the regional program clinical directors, and also happens to be on the clinical expert panel. That person being Dr. Lise Bisnair, and her husband being Dr. John Lyons. I am not at all comfortable with the potential for conflict of interest there. And I do not believe that a tool developed by the spouse of one of the people on the panel should be the only tool that is getting mentioned in their report. I just think that's utterly inappropriate.
So we can see, like,
yeah,
this is very complicated stuff.
There's a lot of things wrong.
And I know when I hear all of this stuff, all I can think to myself is, I just want my kid to have the help he needs. Yeah. That's all I want. I don't even want to know about any of this stuff. Is this fun for you, Bruce? Is this fun? Because I think for most of us, this
depends
stuff isn't
which
fun.
day you
this
ask
isn't
me.
Fun.
I'm a policy nerd. I confess. I've worked in government. I've had a kid with autism. He's 17. My other son is 15. Like, I've been living with this for a long time, and I've wanted to get it right for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I've been thinking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
So
I, for one, am
there's days when it's not fun.
Yeah, I'm extremely grateful that you did, because half of these answers I started to doze off and think about, like, there's a Toby's down the road, and I'm thinking, like, maybe we can get a beer after. And that's what's on my mind right now. I can't even follow some of this stuff. You're sold? Okay, I'm buying. I'm buying. So
who you have beer with apparently
we've
is
gone
important.
over an hour. The scroll has stopped, and there haven't been any. There's been 97 comments, and I've seen them fly by, but it has stopped, and we have 32 people watching. We are happy to answer. Bruce, not me. Bruce is happy to answer any questions that you would like to post, but we've gone through my big long list of questions, and I think we covered an awful lot. We would like to do more of these if you want them. I would like to bring Laura Kirby-McIntosh, and talk about school issues, just specifically, and what the OAC has done and hopes to do. I think it might be fun to see if we can bring in a professional to talk about, how do you choose a provider? what do you look for?
Oh, great idea.
What do you look for when you go, like, you know, so we've got all these big-headed problems and all of these issues, and I'm more than happy to leave them with Bruce. Frankly, I trust him, and my head hurts about thinking about this. But for me, when I am looking for help for my kid, I want to look at the team. I want to know, what should I be looking for in a center? Sometimes you get a feeling something's not quite right, and you don't feel confident in the decision that you're making because you don't know what to look for. So I think it would be nice to have some conversations like that. We have a brilliant lawyer on our board, and we have some incredibly smart people on the board and in the community who might be willing to do that. So if you wish, maybe I'll make a little survey. You know, would you like
100%.
for me to bring in a BCBA and a psychologist who do this stuff for a living to ask about common sense kinds of issues and problems, finding a good provider, tips for home, how do you survive, breathing in and out, you know, really good common sense kind of things, aside from the politics, right? We're people, we're families.
Fill out the membership form.
Joy,
Forgive me. I'm
please,
sorry.
I'm done.
I interrupt.
I'm done.
I'm a bad man. But fill out that membership form, because that will help us to
Yeah.
figure out where.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Who are
Yeah.
you? Where are you?
We'll come up with the
What do
ideas.
you want? What do you want from us? What do you want?
Yeah.
More
Well,
importantly, what do you need? Okay,
There
so
it is.
any questions? Or should we, okay, Ben
I'm-
says, get rid of the term IBI altogether. It's meaningless.
it's going to be gone in a matter of months, Beth.
Yeah.
It's on its way out, and
Yeah.
we're going to have an Ontario Autism program that uses the science of applied behavior analysis to work with kids with autism. And IBI and ABA as the name of a program, gonzo. I'm going to go up just a little wee bit there. Yes, Gwen, IBI is under the umbrella of ABA. I think we already touched on that, but Gwen also said therapy has to be done during certain hours. Well, no, it doesn't. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter the phase of the moon. It doesn't matter the day of the week. It can be done. It can be done in all sorts of different settings, and it doesn't have to be done during certain hours. But from time to time, the regional programs have tried to put restrictions on this. But we had, for my boy, a DFO program together where the therapists came to our home. They did it outside school hours. They did it on weekends. We had the ability to make up missed sessions, which you don't get with a center-based program. We had a lot more input into the programming and goal setting. They will try to convince you of this. It isn't true. So,
Yeah, that's my experience as well.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing a lot more questions. Gwen said something else again. IBI is the model where you get many hours of intense therapy. ABA program is just one goal, and that has been worked on and is truly meant more to train parents.
yeah,
That's how it was.
yet another flaw. You know,
Yeah.
not all parents are able, and many aren't willing to do this. I remember this discussion about the IBI notion itself back when my wife and I got sticker shock at the beginning. And my wife is an Ontario College of Teachers. She's certified, got an honors BA. She's a brilliant woman and an absolutely fantastic teacher.
And
And mom. But when we considered the situation,
Yeah,
our boy needed a mom,
yeah.
not a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
He needed a teacher, but that wasn't what Laura was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we went with it.
Mm-hmm.
I still stand by that decision. We could have saved quite a bit of money, but, you know, Dr. Sheila Laredo, who sits on the implementation committee with me, she is a brilliant woman. She has a son with autism. She is an endocrinologist who specializes specializes in diabetes insipidus, and she also happens to be the chief of staff at Women's College Hospital. And she has told me over the years the same story again and again, that she had done some reading and started to do what she thought was ABA with her boy. And then she hired a behavior analyst and found out what it's really about. Parent training to a point in terms of generalizing the programs, but not always a good idea. Oh, and the idea about online training?
Yeah.
Sorry, no.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you're a lousy parent. This is very difficult work when you have an emotional connection with the person who requires the ABA. It's a whole other dynamic. And for me, I'm mom. I try to learn from the therapists that I observe, and I try to duplicate their work, but I try to work with what they are doing, not the other way around. I try to not to oppose my motherly agendas on things, and I need them. I wish I didn't, but I do. Anybody else?
Tony's just put up the 800 number.
I think we are winding down.
I think
and
so.
Everybody's going to bed. We're losing folks. But if somebody has a burning desire to reach out to Bruce, he's the man. So if you have a question that you feel comfortable sharing on the great internet, we can wait a few more seconds for your question. Brent says, what does Brent say?
So what happens now? I just got on the list. I'm terrified it will take too long. Well, Anna or Ina, I'm not sure how to do that, but any wait list is too long.
Yeah.
It's been too long for a very long time.
Yeah.
But we found ourselves with $500 million of funding over the next 5 years. Surely, surely we can make that work and make an improvement.
Yeah.
I just, all of the factors are there. We've got willingness on behalf of the government. We've got the cooperation of a wide range of professionals. We've got a total revision to the two programs to fix it. And the things that we've mentioned, we're working on repairing the appeals process. They call it an individual review mechanism. It's neither individual or independent, pardon me. It's neither independent nor is it a review. We're working on that as well. We're going to get there. It's going to take a few more months. It's not all going to happen at the same time, but it's coming. And the changes that are being made, those diagnostic centers that have been created, the 5 of them across Ontario, they've already cut the time to diagnosis by almost half. It's down from 2.5 years to 1.5 years, and that's in the matter of a few months that they've gotten that much better.
We feel ya. As people, you are surrounded on this chat group with people who waited years and years and years and years for service. I waited, I think, 2.5 years before my kid finally got in. And it's excruciating. It is, and we feel ya. We feel ya. Just to remind folks too, the OAC is not a government organization. We're a volunteer group. We don't work for the government. We're not an arm of the government. We don't speak for them. If we have a problem with something that they're doing, we feel completely free to speak out about that, and we feel that that's our job. We're the watchdogs. Yes?
Absolutely.
We are the watchdogs. Sometimes, some people in the community seem to think we have more power than we do. We have influence, possibly, but we don't have power.
Quite a bit, I'd say.
Yeah. Certainly this guy and some of these other smart people have been working on this for 12 years. Brent says thank you. I think, I think we're done.
I guess we're done.
Are we done?
Well,
Are we done,
generally
folks?
speaking, if Karen says we're done, we're done.
So ruled.
She and my wife, they have ABA'd me into complete compliance. I am...
He is ruled by the women in his life. It is true.
The reinforcer of Beerett Toby's, I think,
all
was
I had
a
to
big
do
factor
was just
there.
put that out there. It's just down the road.
Yeah, doesn't take a lot, really.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. Thank you for watching. Please share this video with friends. If you've got a pal who's struggling, Let them know about the OAC. We can't solve everybody's problems individually, but collectively we can really help each other, and we are helping each other. Congratulations, this is a big win. This is a big win. Thank you, parents, for this amazing fight. You inspire us every single day, and I thank my lucky stars for the OAC. I'm happy to help, just as I know many of you are happy to help. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, all of our friends,
Yesterday,
Yeah. What?
1 year anniversary of
1 year. 1 year.
getting the change
1
to
year.
the age cutoff.
And my heart's starting to mend.
It's
gonna take a while.
It is going to get better.
Yeah.
It is.
We forgive, maybe, some of us. I forgive, but I don't forget. We're not going to forget. Bye. All right. Oh, God. How do I do this?
Channeling my inner John Stewart there.
Wait, yeah. Oh, just do a little dance.
Oh, shit.
Whoop. Oh, we're in for it.
Now we're for it.
Now we're, the province found us.
Oh, my God.
I can't, how do I turn this off?
I don't know. Oh,
Oh,
somebody had the code.
the province found us.
There's a finish button there.
I can't find it.
It was down in the lower right.
I can't minimize
This is hilarious.
Okay, here comes our tech. Oh,
What do you want me to do?
we're logging off.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, are we gone?
Finish.
I love that. We leave with the alarm. Did you set the alarm?